headphones.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. We're very excited to have you all join us today for a very important conversation with some wonderful leaders that I'm looking forward to introducing you to. Today, we're going to be talking about strategies for advancing diversity.
Hey, Ricky, you're muted, I think.
Oh, goodness. Thank you, Matt. Let me start again. 2 years after a pandemic, you think we would not have to be told that we're on mute. So let me start again. Welcome, everyone. We're delighted to have everyone here with us this afternoon to talk about a really important topic. Our discussion today is going to be strategies for advancing diversity in franchising, particularly through programs such as the HBCU Challenge. You know, we have seen, and through this panel today, the opportunity to bring together association leaders, corporate leaders, government leaders, and demonstrating how we can all work together to provide greater numbers of opportunities to diverse communities and underrepresented populations, but also increasing outcomes through business ownership and the like. And so we see the HBCU Challenge as one of those really interesting tools that many of our members are leaning into to help improve and advance their DE&I outcomes. So we're really looking forward to talking about that with you today. By way of introduction, my name is Ricky Amos. I'm the Executive Director of the IFA Foundation, home of our Diversity Institute, where we spend a lot of time talking about these issues and supporting our members in the franchising community at large to advance their DE&I initiatives. Before I turn it over to Ursa, who will be moderating our panel today and introducing her, I will give you some logistical notes for how we're going to run our seminar today. The session is being recorded. We will be able to distribute it and share with all of our attendees, and then those who weren't able to come later, we will also be able to post it online. We encourage you to share it with others and encourage others to consider the HBCU Challenge as a way to advance their DE&I initiatives. I also want to note that throughout the event, we will be able to take questions. So we'll encourage you to post your questions in the chat box. Our moderators will be using those and sharing those with any of our speakers if they have to depart early for the like. We will also preserve time at the end so we can have a discussion with all of our speakers and attendees who are able to be with us. Our moderator has muted everybody, but we'll ask everybody to make sure you please stay on mute throughout the event unless you're speaking. So I should have, as I needed to mute as we got started as well. But with that, I will make sure that I turn it over and let me introduce you all to Ursa Jackson. Ursa Jackson is the chair of the Diversity Institute at the IFA and works with me at the IFA Foundation. She has been an amazing leader at the Diversity Institute in helping all of us think about ways that we can advance DE&I outcomes, but then how we can talk about it in franchising and support all of our businesses and lean in together to develop solutions that could advance all of our initiatives. So with that, Ursa, let me turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ricky. I'd like to personally welcome each of you to this great discussion that we have laid out for you. As I prepared some opening remarks, I started with the question. Sorry about that. I think Ashley muted me when she muted everyone else. But I wanted to highlight two of our missions, and it greatly dovetails with why we're here today. Two of the missions of the IFA Foundation include creating a bridge between franchising and diverse communities, and also shaping the future of franchising. That is exactly what we are here to do today. Before I get into our topic, I just want to tell you a little bit about the IFA Foundation's Diversity Institute, and mainly the Black Franchise Leadership Council, which was launched last year. We have some representatives from the Black Franchise Leadership Council that I just want to mention. Richard Snow, who is on this call with WISPAS, is here. I think I saw Carolyn Thurston with Wisdom Senior Care that's here. Also Dr. Cassandra Hill, with Choice Hotels Owners Council. I may have missed some others, but thank you guys for your leadership on this effort. It's been a pleasure working and seeing the work of the Black Franchise Leadership Council. More to come on that. But let's get to the meat of why we're here today, to talk about the Historically Black Colleges and Universities Partnership Challenge. Now, I had the pleasure of doing a fireside chat with Congressman Adams in the fall for a fall leadership meeting, and it was a fantastic discussion. I was delighted to see that there are a number of IFA member companies who have already come on board with this partnership challenge. And we hope after today that many more of you will raise your hands to say, yes, this is something that's good for me, it's good for business, and I want to sign up. So with that, I am not going to make too many opening remarks because we've got a stellar panel here today to bring some content to you. I'm going to first introduce to you Ben Branch. Ben is the Vice President of Federal Government Affairs with the IFA. Ben is going to bring some remarks to you. So Ben, would you unmute? Thank you.
Yes. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to meet everyone virtually, and thank you for your time. I recently started at IFA about 2 months ago, so I'm getting adjusted, and it's been in meeting a lot of you all, and I look forward to working with you all in my capacity. So please feel free to reach out to me and use me as a resource. A little bit about my background. I actually was the former executive director for the Congressional Black Caucus's Political Action Committee. So I've had the esteemed pleasure of actually working with Congresswoman Adams quite a bit. So we're really proud to partner with her and work with her on her HBCU challenge. My family all went to HBCUs. My father taught at both Hampton University and Norfolk State University. So I come from that world. So I definitely recognize the importance of what HBCUs have meant to the African American community, and just to the overall community as a whole. So with that, I wanted to just talk a little bit about Congresswoman Adams. To those of you who may not be familiar with her, she sits on the Financial Services Committee and the Education and Labor Committee, to where she serves as a chairwoman of the Subcommittee on Workforce Protections. She was actually a former state legislator, and also served on the Greensboro County City Council. And she was actually one of the founders and co-chairs of the HBCU caucus in Congress, which she was able to actually secure over $1.3 billion in funding for HBCUs. With respect to franchising in her congressional district, there are over 2,200 franchises that provide over 42,000 jobs. So, that's something that we're really, proud of in her district. We have, speaking on behalf of the Congresswoman today, Mr. John Christie, who serves as her chief of staff, who's been with her since I believe 2017, and he's also worked for a number of different, a number of members of Congress. So he's very well versed in the protocol. So with that, I just want to thank everyone, and I will turn it over to John.
All right, thanks, Ben, and good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of Congresswoman Adams, I'd like to just thank the International Franchise Association for hosting today's session. Congresswoman regrets that she couldn't be in attendance today. She had to catch a flight back to Charlotte, but she definitely supports everything that IFA has done in order to support our HBCUs and their students. And it's great that IFA and I believe 5 of your member companies are members of the HBCU Partnership Challenge. So we appreciate that support and commitment to partnering with our HBCUs. So can get into a little bit about the Partnership Challenge. The Congresswoman created the Partnership Challenge in September 2017. And to give a little bit a sense of where we were at that point, it was the first year of the Trump administration. President Trump at that time had released a budget that basically slashed key HBCU priorities or left many of them flatlined with level funding. Given the dynamics in Washington at that time, the Congresswoman came to the realization that in order to really move substantive priorities for HBCUs forward, it was really imperative to create a good relationship with the private sector, get them engaged, and really strengthen public-private initiatives with HBCUs. So that's where the HBCU Challenge came about. 3 key reasons for creating the challenge. Again, strengthening public-private investments to ensure future sustainability, increase career prospects for HBCU students, and advance diversity and inclusion within all sectors of employment. As many of you may know, HBCUs punch well above their weight. Only 3% of all higher education institutions, yet they produce 20% of all African-American graduates. You can go through the list. We've got 40% of African-American engineers come from HBCUs, about 50% of all African-American public school teachers, about 80% of all African-American judges. So HBCUs do that work every day. And to give you a little bit more sense for why we create the challenge and the impact that it can also have, positive impact on the private sector, I have a couple of statistics. 67% of job seekers say a diverse workforce is important when considering job offers. And organizations that report higher levels of racial diversity bring in nearly 15 times more sales revenue than their counterparts. So given the fact that HBCUs are producing a lot of the diverse talent that we see, and given that diversity and inclusion has positive impacts on what the private sector can do, what kind of revenue they bring in, et cetera, it's really imperative that we create those key partnerships between the private sector and HBCUs. So long and short of it is, the challenge is a public pledge. It's an announcement that your organization is at the table and committed to creating strategic partnerships with our nation's HBCUs. Also an acknowledgement that HBCUs produce top minority talent, and that as a result, they should be a part of your diversity and inclusion efforts. And at this time, from a first cohort of members, about 5 members were in the HBCU Partnership Challenge in 2017. We've grown to 82 members. And those members span all forms of industry. We're talking tech, telecom, agriculture, financial services. The list goes on. So, you know, the challenge, in our opinion, and the Congresswoman's opinion, is really an integral part of ensuring our HBCUs stay sustainable, ensuring that diversity and inclusion is a key part of everyone's hiring strategies, engagement strategies, et cetera. And IFA and a few of their members have taken that pledge. We would hope that the material you hear today, that many will join them in that effort.
Thank you so much, John. John will be with us a bit longer. He may have to leave for another meeting early. If there are any questions that you have for John, please drop them in the chat. John, if we get questions after you drop off, I'll certainly circle back with you. I appreciate your comments and certainly further solidifying the business case for the HBCU Partnership Challenge. I want to thank you and Congresswoman Adams for all of the work with the Partnership Challenge. Thank you. Before I segment to our next guest for comments, I just want to highlight a couple of things that John mentioned. He highlighted some of the industries where the HBCUs put out lots of professionals. He mentioned engineers, he mentioned teachers, judges. There are other industries that are heavily represented in the graduates of the HBCUs. So for the companies that are represented, start thinking about, hey, are these some of the areas where I might have a shortage? Keep in mind also, there are more than 100 HBCUs. Now we have one of the best ones on with us today, represented Dr. Artis Dr. Rosalind Clark Ortiz. She is with Benedict College, so obviously she's a huge fan, but I want to yield the floor to her to talk a little bit about her background, her school, and how this partnership challenge is something that's a benefit to Benedict College. With that, Dr. Ortiz.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be with you today. Thank you for giving voice to Benedict College, the HBCU that put the BC in HBCU. We certainly define ourselves here as an opportunity institution, and that means we are functionally a minority supplier in the language in which you will clearly understand. We are a minority supplier. We are providing not widgets, not parts and services, but human capacity. We are manufacturing human capacity, diverse talent and human capacity. So if you are interested in diversifying your workforce, sincerely interested in diversifying the ranks of the International Franchise Association, we are the very best partners you could possibly have. Institutions like Benedict College have a long and distinct history of educating the descendants of former slaves, individuals who are overwhelmingly low wealth, first generation kids of color. And we do an amazing job. As Mr. Christie has just articulated, we are punching significantly above our weight. Our outcomes really speak for themselves in terms of the numbers of students that we're graduating and the extent to which those students are very, very successful, both in the workforce and in graduate and professional school. As we think about opportunities for our students at Benedict College, we have a robust School of Business. We have expanded our School of Business to include business and entrepreneurship, recognizing the importance and the value of not only getting a job, but creating jobs and reinvesting in our communities and building generational wealth. Each of you will no doubt understand and appreciate that important value and set of goals. Our students are broadly trained in a whole host of management, accounting, economics, finance, entrepreneurship, logistics, and supply chain. So lots of things that you can take advantage of as employers as you are recruiting from this rich pool of talented students. We also have depth and breadth in the STEM disciplines: engineering, IT, computer science, environmental engineering, and environmental science, among just a few. Things that will no doubt be of value to you as franchise operators. You understand the relative value of, again, computer science, information technology, big data management, and of course, engineering. So we're spending a great deal of time reinvesting in all of our academic programs to ensure that, again, we become a robust minority supplier, that we broaden that pipeline. In order to do that, however, we need partners. We need partners that are visible, deeply invested partners. Now, that is not just a check, although I will take your checks. That is not just writing a check. That is a robust, meaningful partnership with our institutions. That means having membership on our employer advisory councils, helping us to shape the curricula in ways that create value for our students. So if there are things, skills, talents, traits you are not seeing, it's important for you to speak up and collaborate with us to strengthen our curriculum so that our students are well prepared to hit the ground running and make impact on their first day on the job. So we welcome you as partners in that effort. We welcome guest speakers to our campus. If they can't see it, they can't be it. We recognize and appreciate the value of mentorship on the campus of Benedict College. So we wish that you would, of course, make time in your busy calendars. Now that Zoom is available, there is no barrier to your full participation in the life of Benedict College and all of our sister HBCUs. These young people represent a breadth of talent and are ready, willing, able, and very excited about the impact they will yet make on the nation's economy. And so we have tremendous opportunities for partnership. Like all institutions, our HBCUs host a series of career fairs during the year. Typically in the fall, we're hosting career fairs for summer employment. In the spring, we're hosting career fairs for both summer employment and long-term employment post-graduation. Each of our institutions has a career development office. Virtually every one of our main pages, Benedict College, www.benedict.edu. You can click on Career Services and get directly to our Career Services team. We are hosting a virtual career fair in just 2 short weeks. Certainly welcome you. It is not too late to join us and be exposed to the full breadth of our students, recognizing that we have about 2,000 students at Benedict College, which makes us a small liberal arts institution. We partner with all of the HBCUs across the state of South Carolina. So you get big bang for your buck. You will get exposure to all 8 historically Black colleges in South Carolina through our Career Pathways Initiative, where we partner with Claflin and Voorhees and the other institutions to provide the full breadth of the talent that's available in South Carolina. Certainly, I know that Congresswoman Adams, a big favorite of mine, always says nothing could be finer than to be at an HBCU in North Carolina. I would broaden that by saying nothing could be finer than being at an HBCU in any of the Carolinas. So the 10 up there, the 8 down here, we're all family, and present tremendous opportunities to engage. As franchisees, you will no doubt appreciate one of our nation's African-American franchisors, Nicholas Perkins, who owns Perkins Management, has purchased the Fuddruckers franchise in its entirety. We are the first HBCU to have a Fuddruckers on the campus. So that is a living, breathing example of entrepreneurship and of the value of franchise ownership right here on our campus. And he doesn't have to have an exclusive. We welcome you to partner with us to expand exposure to our students, to franchise opportunities, to job placement opportunities within your organizations. And I think that you will find very collaborative partners, certainly at Benedict College, but at all of our HBCU partner institutions. We live to provide opportunities for our students and to broaden that pipeline so that when we walk into any of your establishments, we can see our graduates and you can reap the benefit of the high quality education they're receiving on the campus of our nation's HBCUs. Thank you for giving me a moment to share with you.
Well, that was awesome. All of your comments line up and dovetail nicely with our Open for Opportunities campaign. I'm sure Matt's probably smiling that I was able to give a plug to Open for Opportunities, which you guys will hear more about at convention. But thanks for the wealth of information. I want to recap a couple of things in case people are taking notes like I am, Dr. Ortiz. For those brands that are taking notes, she mentioned career fairs. They have one in the fall, one in the spring. So that's a great opportunity to get plugged in. A check is good, but that's just a starting point. She mentioned actually getting involved with the Employer Advisory Council, guest speakers. So get people from your teams out on the campus. This is successful when we're building relationships. It's not just about dollars. Obviously, the schools can use that, but getting involved in creating those relationships, guest speakers. She highlighted some of the areas where they're very strong. If you're in the STEMs, for instance, or entrepreneurs, which that's everybody in franchising, guys, business, everybody in franchising. You see how all of these line up and dovetail nicely. Also, great plug for Fuddruckers. One of the things that I certainly want us to be mindful of as we have the discussion about franchising, the intersection with HBCUs, are there brands that would be great for on campus? The students have to eat, guys. And so the students need services. So let's make sure that we are covering this with a full court press because we make change when we think outside the box. We can't keep doing the same thing and expect different results. And so when you're looking creatively as brands about how you might tap into different markets, one of the best things to do is just ask questions. Hey, where do I start? If you're talking to a brand, what do you need? I know when I was preparing for the discussion with Congresswoman Adams last fall, and I was doing a little research, some of the things I heard from other schools was, hey, people never really ask us what we need. They assume that they know what we need. This is about starting that conversation to find out what the schools need. Do they need guest speakers? Do they need mentors? And plug in where the school has a need rather than assuming that as companies, we've got the answer. Your playbook that you've used for recruiting your traditional talent may not be the same playbook that you use for attracting diverse talent. So certainly keep that in mind. You've got a wealth of knowledge at these colleges. So definitely tap on the folks like Dr. Ortiz that can point you in the right direction. There is talent that's out there. So thank you, Dr. Ortiz. At this time, I want to make sure that everyone knows that they can plug a question in. I think that Ashley or Ricky is watching the chat because I'm talking and listening and taking notes profusely. So if there's a question, Ashley or Ricky, feel free to stop me.
Well, thank you, Ursa. That's actually perfect timing because I do want to just pose a question really quickly to John Christie before he has to jump, because I know this is something that you really focus on. But we have a question come in that is someone's an emerging franchisor with over 20 years of restaurant management experience, and they're really looking to join the partnership. Could you give just a quick rundown of how they would go about that?
Absolutely, and then thank you for that question. So the great thing about the challenge is that it's very easy to join, at least on the front end. Basically, all it requires is that you send an email, and you can shoot me an email actually. And before I log off, I will make sure I put my email in the chat. Shoot an email indicating your participant or your want to take the partnership challenge. Once that happens, we send out a press release, the press from our office. The press release includes a quote from Congresswoman Adams, Congressman French Hill, who's the co-chair of the HBCU caucus here in Congress, and a quote from a member of your C-suite. The reason why we emphasize a quote from a C-suite member is because it's very important that leadership at your company is really involved and engaged in the idea of diversity and inclusion and partnering with HBCUs in order to achieve that. So after that press release goes out, you are a member of the challenge. What happens after that is we will assign what we call a relationship manager on staff. And basically what that person does is reach out periodically to assess the status of your current partnerships. If you are still looking to create one, you're still trying to figure out what to do, that relationship manager can also provide guidance as to what would be the best first step to take. Can also provide guidance as to what schools may be the best to partner with. And one thing I want to emphasize, I would be remiss if I didn't say this with Dr. Artis online. When you hear in the news certain partnerships or certain donations or investments made into HBCUs, you typically hear about the same schools. You always hear about the Howards and the North Carolina A&Ts and Morehouse and Spelmans. And of course, those schools are doing great work, leaders in their respective communities. But we have over 100 HBCUs, and they're all preparing wonderful talent. Many are in rural areas, and they all specialize in something unique. It's important to partner with those smaller liberal arts HBCUs as well, because they're leaders in their communities, and they also need and deserve investment and engagement as well. So typically, if you come to our office and you're looking to partner with a school, we will drive you towards those smaller institutions first. Because it's not that a Howard or North Carolina A&T doesn't need investment, but there are other schools where you can, to be quite frank, get more bang for your buck, make a bigger impact.
Thank you, John. One of the things that I would like to say to the brands that are represented, you don't have to have it all figured out from A to Z. The first thing is just the dedication to the commitment. The group can help you sort of strategize about your strategic partner, what it might look like, sort of how the relationship can grow. But the main thing is raising your hand and making the commitment. That's the first step. Ashley, any other questions before we move on?
We don't have any other questions at the time, but I did want to let Ricky make a comment from the IFA perspective.
Thanks, Ashley, and thanks, Ursa. I wanted to follow up on John's comments about the instructions on how to get involved in the Partnership Challenge. So I'd say too, as you reach out to John, and I hope many of you do, to put your name on the list, I encourage you to copy us as well. We at the IFA, in partnership with the Congresswoman's office to help raise awareness of the HBCU Challenge, we too want to amplify your work within the franchising sector to show others and lead by example and share your stories about what you're doing and what's working and how that can inspire change from others as well. So we'd love to be part of that mix. And then as you are part of the challenge, sharing with us what you're doing so that in next year's event where we're focusing on this, we're sharing those stories back that are continuing to bring about change. So I would say CC us when you reach out if you can, and we'll be happy to make sure that we amplify the message all the further within the franchising sector as well, and to shine a light on the HBCU challenge. So I just wanted to add that there for now, and then we can get back to talking about some of the specific examples. So thanks, Ashley.
Thanks, Ashley and Ricky. As you were talking, Ricky, I thought about a question that came up with another company, and that is, what if there's not an HBCU that's close to my corporate office? Keep in mind, you can engage in lots of different ways by sending your folks on campus if it's an ideal campus where they've got a specialty that you'd like to recruit and tap into. Also, there's summer internship opportunities, other job opportunities, remote work. If we've learned anything during the pandemic, it's that you don't necessarily have to be in the same city to be productive. All of us have gotten accustomed to working remotely. So even if there's not an HBCU that's right in your backyard, don't let that stop you from signing up for the challenge. We've got opportunities, as we've all emphasized. There are more than 100 schools to pick from. So there's a fit for each of you on this call. And with that, I'm going to sort of segment into a discussion with two of our member companies, Choice Hotels and Williams Chicken, just a couple of the brands who have raised their hands and said they wanted to get involved. And so I want to first talk with Tim Williams with Williams Chicken. Tim is running double duty. He had 2 meetings and he's at a network cafe. Tim has already told us there may be a little background noise, but I certainly want to hear from Tim. He's awesome. Tim and I have had some conversations about this. So with that, Tim, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and the company, and then talk a little bit about why you all got involved.
Well, thank you, Ursula. I'm Tim Williams. I'm the Director of Franchise Development and Day-to-Day Operation of Williams Chicken. Williams Chicken is probably one of the largest African-American-owned franchisors in the country. We actually own our brand. We've been in the business about 30 years. I've been a member of IFA for probably another 15 years. I think I received my CFE in 2002. And we have made a commitment to invest time, money, energy, and location to the historic Black colleges. My founder, Hawatha Williams, is a graduate of Paul Quinn College in Waco. So we are deeply rooted into the historic Black college. I was fortunate enough to get a scholarship to a Big 12 college, so I took that route, and then I worked my way back. So I'm involved in what we do, and I will open myself up, especially to the university. Is that if you need someone to do a Zoom call or come by visit your campus, I would take your invitation to, especially on the Zoom calls, to talk to your students about the IFA, because most of us stumbled in IFA. Where I went to college, there wasn't such thing as talking about getting a degree in franchising. I just have nothing paying attention enough in business law to understand the franchising end of the law part of it. And that's how we got into the franchise industry. So it's a well-kept secret that we need to get out to our minority students, our minority entrepreneurs, that it's a great industry to be a part of. And it's been a hidden jewel for a long time that need to be exposed. And that's one of my mission, is to get to talk and tell everybody I can about franchising, even to the point where we at Williams Chicken have put a program together with Dallas Independent School District, where their students are taking work study programs, and we're training and giving them opportunity to work in our stores. And some days they become managers and franchise partners. And how do we make that happen? Well, this year alone, we will promote 5 of our managers from managed to franchise partners. That means we're going to give them a location, most likely location where they already been working in. That's a start, because we always don't get this opportunity. And that's the kind of commitment my president, Hawatha Williams, and I have made to grow our clients, our customers, because without our people, we wouldn't been around. We had a fortune getting ready to open up in Chicago. I'm gonna take the same program to Chicago. So I'm asking everybody who get a chance to go out and speak to a student about franchising. because it's not something that you can pick up in school. It's not a class unless I think there's maybe five Earth universities that actually have a franchise program in the school. And for the historic Black College presidents or influence that might be on this call, you know, you need to speak with your food supplier that brings these brands on your campus. What are they doing for your campus? And that's one thing that I'm focusing on. If I can partnership with a campus, then we're looking forward to that, because that's the only way we're going to grow these opportunities for our students and for people of color, to be quite honest with you, because there's not a lot of us. I think there's, 5 members of IFA that are franchisors, African-American franchisors. That number is crazy. Of all the franchisors in the United States, we have maybe 5 or 6 that actually franchisor, because why? We have been taught, we have been exposed. And that's one mission that Williams Chicken is doing, is trying to expose the greatness of being part of a franchise or how to become a franchisor. We're not going a whole bunch of detail. Unless a couple of questions you might want to ask me, Ms. Erica. I'll turn it back to you, Ms. Jackson.
Thank you, Tim. Thanks for your energy. We've had some lively discussions about sort of tapping into the HBCUs and just in the community at large. Tim raised an interesting point on sort of stumbling into franchising. We want to be more deliberate with taking the opportunity of franchising to communities that are underserved. I mean, that is at the focal point of what we do at the Diversity Institute. That's at the focal point of what this partnership is designed to do as well. Tim, hats off to you guys for promoting managers to owners. That is something that more brands can take note of. For any of the college presidents, I took note and underlined, Tim's available to talk to your students. These are the types of things that are an easy lift to find out if students have an interest in franchising. I bet there are other brands that are represented here that would be glad to have a conversation, a Zoom call. The goal of us talking and starting this dialogue is to come up with numerous ways that brands can get plugged in. So keep that in mind as well. I'm going to segment now to John at Choice. I've known John for a long time. Choice is doing some great work. I'm going to yield the floor to John to first just introduce himself and kind of how he landed in franchising. But also I want to hear about Choice Hotels' decision to join the challenge and how their partnership has played out so far. John?
Thank you very much, Ursula. It's great to see everyone, and thank you very much for having me. First off, I'd like to say that I am a product of an HBCU. I believe that was created March 2nd, and let me not get this wrong because I'll be in trouble from my other HU alum, 1867. So almost 155 years. And to have that opportunity to attend Howard and be an alumni there and have the opportunity to be where I am today is definitely a testament to our need and wanting to have these great partnerships with HBCUs. If I can remember correctly, HBCUs were created to learn. So that was, right after the civil, with the Civil War. So, and they were just created for the progeny of slaves as well. Now, fast forward to this day, how far we have come, how far do we have to go? So I work for Choice Hotels International, and what I do there is I'm the Vice President of Emerging Markets, Owner Relations, and Franchise Development, where I lead a team of individuals that focus on recruiting underrepresented minorities into the hotel industry. Choice Hotel is a company made up of 7,100 hotels, I apologize. And we have awarded and financially supported over 280 underrepresented minorities into the hotel industry. I'm also proud to say that Choice has created a fantastic partnership with the HBCU Challenge with Congresswoman Alma Adams. Our initiative with the HBCUs focuses on creating a bridge for students leaving HBCUs and helping them enter meaningful careers in hospitality management. And to that end, we've launched a sponsorship of hospitality management training program developed together with Concord Hospitality, which is a member of our Choice Hotel Owners Council, and Morgan State University. This fall, 2 recent Morgan State graduates are participating in a 6-month rotational program at the Cambria, DC Convention Center, and the other at the Cambria, Nashville, which you can see right here overhead. We look forward to this program creating a diverse pipeline of talent and seeding future general managers who are confident that will become future owners as well. And I mean, for us, this HBCU Partnership Challenge was created so that we can strengthen our public-private investments in HBCUs to ensure the future sustainability and increase career prospects for students and advance diversity and inclusion within all sectors of employment. At Choice Hotels, we just don't talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. It is woven in our DNA. And it just doesn't come from our senior management teams. It comes from our board of directors, and it starts at the top. To have an opportunity to work with Congresswoman Alma Adams on this initiative is absolutely imperative for all of us to continue our growth. Again, how far we have come and how far we have to go. Thank you, Ursa.
I love it, John. I want you to stay on the hot seat for a little bit longer because I love what you guys have done. And I'm sure there are other brands with many questions. I'm going to try and come up with a few questions that some of the brands around the table are probably thinking. First, why Morgan State? How did you guys limit it? And the reason I'm asking that question, the conversations that I've had with a number of companies is, well, we don't know which schools are going to be the best schools for us. How do we identify? Do we create an opportunity that's open to all schools? In other words, do we go deep with one school or do we go wide with many schools? So I'd love to hear about your decision-making process internally, John.
Sure, fantastic, thank you. And in partnering with Janice Cannon, who was our Senior Vice President at Cambria, it was something that she really wanted to focus on. So partnering with Morgan State, just for now, this is our first iteration of doing this. So this is just the first opportunity for us to partner with Morgan State. And it is a company, again, that's close to where our Rockville headquarters is. It's located about 25 minutes up the road there in Baltimore from Morgan State perspective. And we have a couple of members from Choice that actually sit on the board at Morgan State as well. We want to broaden this and open this up to more universities to have an opportunity to bridge the gap as well from the hospitality industry. So we all know during the pandemic, the hospitality industry took a little bit of a hit, to say the least. And some of our diverse talent and some of our talent overall went to work in other industries because there was not an opportunity. So we want to make sure that this incredible, fantastic hospitality industry that is very robust and is still at the forefront of DE&I is relevant to everyone that has an opportunity. And our diverse talent, where is it going to come from? Where are we going to look for? And I think John mentioned earlier that 3% of our colleges or HBCUs, yet 20% graduates come from there. So in order for us to reach out as franchisors, as companies, to create these partnerships where we have the HBCUs that are with such overwhelming talent, where can we reach that? So we're open to doing that. But the Morgan State, the reason why we chose them, and again, yes, we have Howard, yes, we have North Carolina A&T, and trust me, I know Howard very well. I was there. But we do want to make sure it is a plethora of all 100 HBCUs. We're not just taking and focusing on one or two.
Excellent, love it. Dr. Ortiz, I'm going to jump back to you. You've heard from kind of some of these brands. You're sitting in the seat of the president. If there are comments, questions that you'd like to throw out to these two brands or to brands in general, thoughts that you might have on ways that they can better connect either with your school or other HBCUs. I know you have a wealth of knowledge. And so I'd love to give you an opportunity for any thoughts.
So just a couple things. One, I dropped a really long list into the chat because I didn't certainly want to monopolize the conversation, but just listed some ways that that individuals can get involved or companies can get involved. Secondly, as smaller private HBCUs, for example, certainly we know Morgan, we know Howard, but as smaller private HBCUs, partnerships become very important to us. So partnerships within and among the HBCU families. So the United Negro College Fund, for example, is the umbrella for the private historically Black colleges. And so as a result of that, we have, for example, the Career Pathways Initiative. So we are partnered with, again, Claflin and Voorhees and Benedict so that employers, recruiters, franchisors can get the benefit of a larger pool of students from which to draw from. And so if you're looking for a more robust sort of ecosystem-wide relationship, umbrella organizations like the United Negro College Fund, certainly Thurgood Marshall is the umbrella organization for the public institutions. Those are opportunities to get engaged. If your company organization is global or national and has a footprint in the marketplaces where HBCUs are located, I would certainly suggest direct involvement with those individual institutions in many of the ways that I've listed previously. And that is, again, Service on Employer Advisory Council, direct investment, provision of internship programs, guest lectures, things of that sort. If your company is not located in the footprint, I really appreciate your talking about not always having to be place bound in this new economy that we've created post COVID-19. There are lots of functions, for example, information technology. We are developing quite a reputation at Benedict College. We have partnerships with Apple, with Google, with ServiceNow, which may build the apps for many of your companies and organizations. So they are, a white label app developer that sells to larger brands like yours, Choice Hotels and others. And so we are programming. Our students are learning to create apps and do coding and development. And so those are back office functions, creative functions in many instances that do not have to take place on the ground. So we are not in Silicon Valley. We are in famously hot Columbia, South Carolina. And yet our students still have the breadth of the global opportunities that are available through the modern day workforce. And so let's not think in terms of limits. Let's not think about where we are and where we're not, but let's think creatively. Let's think outside the box and find meaningful ways to engage these young people. I promise you, you will be glad that you did. The depth of talent, the breadth and depth of talent that we find on these campuses is unique, in my opinion. And because so many of our students, again, are those low wealth first gen kids of color, some may be represented on this call. I'm one. I was one. And as a result of that, we have a pretty doggone good work ethic too. In addition to a high level of skill and engagement, we certainly also work very, very hard to demonstrate our capacity. And so I think you will be very pleased with the level of responsiveness from our institutions, the talent at our institutions, and the ability to develop very meaningful partnerships, right? Not in name only, although we'd love to put your franchise names on our beautiful football stadium, or all the wonderful things we have on this campus. There certainly are branding opportunities. You may know that Benedict's band is headed to the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. So if Choice would like to have its logo on that band uniform coming down 34th Street in November, we would love, love, love to have that. So certainly lots of ways to get involved.
I love it, including branding opportunities. I love it. Thanks for connecting the dots with some of the large global companies that you guys are working with, because it's just reinforces that you don't have to be right in the backyard of the HBCU to create a meaningful partnership. That's great that Apple and Google's of the world that you guys are doing partnerships with. That's great. I think every brand, if they sat down, could certainly develop some ideas about how they could connect. I've got a few more questions sort of for the panelists or things that I'd love to talk about, but Ashley or Ricky, any other questions in the chat? And while you guys are doing that, I think Matt is still on. I don't have Matt on my agenda, but I did want to recognize Matt Haller if he is still on, in case there are any comments or remarks that he wants to make, or at least just leave us something in the chat. But no worries if Matt's not on. Ashley, Ricky?
It does look, Ursa, like Matt did just have to jump off. But the only question that we have at this time was for Tim. And Tim, you had mentioned that there was a school that had a franchise program that you were working with. Could you just remind us of what school that was?
You're still on mute, Tim.
Yes. Well, my first one, I'm starting out with high school. Actually, before South Cliff won the state championship game, I had partnered with them to some of their kids that needed work out. We put together with Dallas Independent Schools a work study program. And I'm also working on that same program with Paul Quinn College, Wilder College, because I'll be in Texas College in Tyler, because we have stores in those locations. So we're trying to partnership with some of the schools where we do have stores already there, so we can actually have a place to do the partnership with. And our goal is to try to grow our managers, educate our college kids about franchise opportunity, and grow our brand.
Thanks for that question, Ashley. And for the brands, be thinking about how you might be able to do an educational session on franchising. These are things that you know in your sleep. You've been in franchising for 20 or 30 years, but if you would just think for a moment that there may be many that have not had the benefit of even being exposed to franchising. I think Tim used the word kind of bumped into franchising, but those are things where you've got the knowledge, you've got folks on your team that could easily be a resource to some of these students to take the message of franchising out. So love that. If there's not anything else, I would like to go to John to ask a few more questions on the Choice Hotels program with Morgan State. And John, if you wouldn't mind talking about how you guys sort of selected the participants, if that was something where you worked with the schools, took recommendations, and I'd like to just delve into that. I don't need to get into the nitty-gritty detail, but for some of the brands that are looking for ideas, this is really sort of a how-to session. So, John.
Yeah, fantastic. So we did take recommendations from the school as to particular students. Number one, that had the aptitude, and number two, that had the want and the need to want to participate in the hospitality industry. So there was a rigorous interview process for the students to make sure, number one, they were a great fit with Choice and with Concord Management from a sponsorship perspective, and their aptitude for the hospitality industry. And we found, two great individuals that are working out, fantastically. And what we're doing, it is a 6-month rotational program where they are going into each of the different departments of a hotel, knowing from a financing perspective, from an engineering perspective, from front of the house, from back of the house, from cleaning, housekeeping services, from HR, and learning more about the entire industry from that perspective. Because let's be frank, I know when I had the opportunity to go to school, I didn't have an opportunity to work. I didn't have an opportunity to get that experience I needed. So as I'm graduating from university or college, and I'm putting my resume in front of a potential employer, they're going to want to know where your experience is, where you've come from. So this is a bridge for those students that, really maybe or may not had an opportunity to participate in that. And for them to learn, hey, this is how you check someone in. This is how finances are run. This is how you read a P&L. This is how engineering works. This is how HR works at a hotel. So after that particular rotational program, then they are, have the opportunity to move forward into a management function, as opposed to, just starting as, hey, let me go in and I'm going to work as a front line, sort of as front desk. as housekeeping so I can get experience so I can move up to the next manager level. It gives them an overall rotational value. They can move ahead. So it can be a great partnership with whoever your partner college is. And it gives us an opportunity as well, not just to use that as a rotational program. We actually use it where we will have an opportunity to present on campus, as Dr. Artis talked about earlier, to have us to come because we have so many more. And just because we chose those two doesn't mean that there are not many more qualified, fantastic individuals, that we have other opportunities to come, not just as Choice Hotels corporate office, but as other Choice Hotel owners have an opportunity to go and to be a part of it as well.
Thank you, John. And thanks for sharing a little bit more about how that program is structured. One of the things that I like about it is that you guys are taking them through kind of the entire process, sort of how it all works. I think that that addresses something that I sort of call a generational knowledge gap oftentimes. If you haven't grown up in a household where there's a discussion about business, how things work, many of the things that we take for granted once we're in business are very new. They're very green for a student who hasn't had the exposure. So by advancing that or closing the gap on the generational knowledge, i.e., here's the exposure, here are how the finances work. Here are all the pieces that you need for this business to be successful. You're setting them up for success. And, I look forward to seeing how that program goes and how you build that out and scale that. And I hope that we can get you coming back to tell more of the success stories on how that program is working out. Love it. Ashley, I think that there is a little bit of chatter in the chat, and for someone who is taking notes and watching and doing a lot of talking, it's hard to keep up. So I want to make sure if there are questions or comments that we yield to those, Ashley.
Yes, well, we've been very lucky because Dr. Artis has been very busy in the chat box helping answer some of the questions as we've been going. We did get a question though that is kind of broader in scope. What are some ways others have grown their diversity efforts? So others in the franchise industry in general. We have thought of a variety of ways, but do not want to make any hand-handed efforts.
I jotted down a couple of things that folks sort of shared with, and Ashley, I assume that that's in the area of kind of creating the pipeline and growing the diversity from the pipeline standpoint. So scholarships are kind of an easy way to sort of get your name out there, kind of the multi-year commitments, because if you're going on the campuses, the students end up knowing who you are. Oftentimes, if it's just a check, they may not remember. There's probably a big press release, but if you're actually sending folks on campus and developing relationships, going out to interview at job fairs, the more, and one consultant called it sort of client touches. So I like to use that. So the more times you can touch that school, either a job fair or a scholarship or setting up mentoring, those types of opportunities are going to increase recognition of your brand. Obviously, I was kidding with Dr. Artis on the branding opportunity, but quite frankly, that's what we're about in franchising. I mean, we know branding and we know the impact of creating that. So there's no different as you're branding for customers as you're branding for this pipeline of students. So some of the same things that you've used to build brand awareness would work even in this setting, but it takes a commitment. Everybody knows a relationship doesn't materialize overnight. It's a continuum. And so that's the important thing. There's no sort of one and done with this. So if you're thinking of just writing a check, that's not going to really, although the check is good, that's just the start of building the relationship. I'd love to hear from the doctor or any of the others about ideas, but I've certainly talked to a number of brands to get ideas on what they're thinking, but I'm going to yield the floor to the doctor.
I think something that John mentioned earlier as he was describing some of the programmatic aspects of internship programs and management training programs, exposure to all aspects of the industry is critically important for our students. So at my prior institution, for example, in Miami, we had aviation. So we had wonderful partnerships with the airport and some of those providers there, including franchisors who were hosted in the airport. And for the students to work in property, and to work in acquisitions, and to work in franchise opportunities, and to work in scheduling, and to see every aspect of a major airport operation, and then be able to develop into an area that they're particularly passionate about. Some people might like sales. Some people might like, other aspects, supply chain, right? Some people may prefer other things. And so exposure opportunities are very, very, very important for us. Again, our students are at Benedict, for example, 71% first gen. So moms and dads are not in business and industry. They can't provide a roadmap. They can't pick up the phone and call somebody and say, hey, can you get Johnny a job for the summer? Those students have to do it the hard way. And very often they don't know what they don't know. So those kinds of robust internship opportunities that show students every aspect of the franchise organization or business really helps them to make intelligent decisions about where their passion is, about what they're best at, where their skill sets are, and where they want to pursue a potential career opportunity. So I would encourage you as we think more broadly about equity and inclusion, because diversity is math, right? We can hire a particular number of women, of this, of that. But inclusion is persistence and culture. So you don't want to invest heavily in an internship program and a job placement opportunity only to see that person leave in a year or two. I realize we're not doing 30-year careers with the same company very often, but we do certainly want to create enough of a robust environment that your investment will pay off. Right? The time you invest in training and development will pay off in terms of that employee staying with you for a period of time. And so I think the more we can solve the exposure problem and the fit problem very early on by giving them these opportunities while they're yet students in terms of meaningful internship, the better off we are in ensuring that we have a right fit connection when you go to make a permanent hire or you recruit someone into a franchise. I just think those are meaningful things to keep in the back of our mind. This isn't just sort of a numbers game for us. This is a meaningful opportunity to really include, right? Expand opportunities.
Gotcha. Ashley, I think you probably have a question, but while I'm thinking about it, one school that I was reading about, they wanted the brands and the companies to know that, hey, sometimes it may be an infrastructure investment. It may not necessarily be the scholarship piece of it, but they talked about the difficulty sometimes of attracting professors and things like that to the campus where the infrastructure is not there. So that just highlights the importance of having a conversation with the university about what are your needs. We can obviously bring some ideas to the table, but I thought that that was an interesting piece of it because you won't necessarily think infrastructure or how the infrastructure affects the ability to attract the talent necessarily. So just something to think about.
I think Tim really articulated that very effectively early on when he suggested, what are your food service providers doing? We are bringing companies and brands onto our campuses that are selling to our students. If we're not getting significant infrastructure investments, long-range investments into our campuses, we do business with people who do business with us. We're very clear about that at Benedict. We do business with people who do business with us. We encourage our students to bank at banks that support us. We encourage our students to buy at establishments that support us. And so visibility on campus, whether it's our food courts, our events, our football games, really make an impact.
Excellent. Love that.
Ursa, we did have, we've got a really interesting offer here from John Mays with Yum Brands to share what they're doing right now. One of the tremendous programs to advance the talent pipeline. So I want to bring John in here for a second.
That's great. I'm glad John's on the call.
Hey, Ursa, thank you so much. And
Hey,
to this
John.
wonderful panel, well facilitated, great information. This topic hits very closely to home for myself as not only a representative, of course, working for Yum Brands and equity and inclusion, but, and supporting franchising in that area, but also as an HBCU grad. My wife is an HBCU grad grad, and also a franchisee, ourselves, and so, I have experienced a little bit on both sides of it. And I do believe franchise is one of the easiest way to reduce risk and lead to some generational wealth for your families. And so, we worked with the University of Louisville and invested pretty significantly into a franchise, a School of Excellence program that they were building out, with the caveat that we would partner with different HBCUs, specifically starting with the Howard University, and to be able to continue to grow franchising and accelerate the path for some of these MBA students. So what we're doing is taking second year MBA students, and so it'll be six Black students from Howard, and then also, four from U of L participating in the first cohort, and they would go through some pretty intensive training. We matching them up with our existing franchisees who are doing some good things, who are, good business people, and who can give them some, kind of high level training on infrastructure and some of the things that you really don't see, going from management focused curriculum to a ownership focused curriculum, and helping them with that. And then, after that, it's going to be kind of cool, like Shark Tank type of situation where they get to present their ideas. And then there's going to be, finances given as a award at the end. And then there'll also be some additional mentoring. And then it's going to unlock and open up opportunities for them to be a franchisees themselves. And so the goal being that some of them would go through the ongoing, after they won the money, that they would go through the additional steps to becoming a franchisee themselves. And then the other part is to roll this cohort, it's just the first cohort, like a pilot, but then to continue that program and then include other HBCUs as well.
Excellent. John, how long of a span will the first cohort go?
The first cohort is going to be a 6-month program.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing that information. I'd like to focus also on an ownership mindset. And I think that is critical with all of these, because the goal is to open up new opportunities and new insights. So thanks for sharing that. Ashley, anything else in the chat?
Not anything at this time.
Excellent. Well, I want to leave our panelists an opportunity to make some final comments. I want to also yield some time if Ricky has any parting comments as well. Would love to just give an opportunity. Tim, you've been quiet for a minute. Any parting comments? It could be tips to other brands, or perhaps one of the things that I wrote down, although I don't think that you had any issues with buy-in, but if there are any of the individuals sitting here trying to figure out sort of how you have the discussion with senior leadership or buy-in, that may be something important if you've got any tips there. But I'd love for you to start out with just kind of making some parting comments.
Well, I'm gonna piggyback on what John May was talking about. That's something that we're doing to grow our franchise, is that we're taking our managers, been with us 5 years. It's kind of like an intern program at their location where they're working with their manager. We give them opportunities to own them. Basically, we finance them because they're proven. Right then, we have made agreement with financial institutions here in DFW area that, after 3 or 4 years of them, well, actually 2 years after them being owners operators, they had their proven P&Ls. Then we turned in that finance then they be able to get financed to pay off their franchise. And we won't let them buy the existing, we'll let them buy a second one. They can't buy off the first one and be still. They have to finance a second one to grow the brand. That's what we're doing for some of our managers. And that backs up to how I'm recruiting high school kids, junior college, and the college kid that's interested in the franchise program. I explain them to this program, how it works. We'll sign a contract with them. You stay with us for 5 years and you meet certain criteria, then you get a chance to be a franchise partner. And we have an institution that will work with us on that. And it's very important. And my last thing is that if we don't educate our kids at our historic Black colleges or in our neighborhoods or our families and friends, then they'll never know. I'll never forget my first experience at a franchise convention. They looked at my badge as a franchisor, and the guy at the door told me, no way, because they never seen a African American franchisor walk through that convention door. And that had motivated me to go get my CFE and share this with my fraternity brothers, my college brothers, my friends and family, the opportunity and franchise that was there. Because if we don't know, then the opportunity goes out the window. So that's my mission, is to educate as much as possible about the great world of franchise. It's a great business community, and myself, my kids, Mr. Williams' kids, financial future is set because of the franchise program that we have built, and our kids work in our franchise system, so they can understand what it takes to keep it going. And it's just passing on the legacy of a great opportunity and a great opportunity in franchising.
Thank you, Tim. That could have been a great commercial. But I love also the emphasis on the generational wealth, because at the end of the day, that's a business proposition that people need to understand. This is not just getting a job, it's the opportunity to build generational wealth. Love that. Love it. Thanks, Tim. John, I'm going to let you make some parting comments next.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate it. And I just want to implore everyone, and I'll piggyback a little bit on what Tim said, is to implore and to let people know about the fantastic world of franchising and where it comes from. Much to Tim's experience in walking as a franchisor, when I speak to people about franchising or owning a hotel, they look at me very perplexed. Huh? I can own a hotel? Yes, you can own a hotel. You can own a Papa John's. You can own a Yum brand. You can own, Pizza Hut, and you can have that opportunity. It's not the name on the flag; it's you that's owning it. And the majority of, I believe, well, I won't say the majority. I know a lot don't understand the franchising model, and the fact that we are focusing on that now with the project with Louisville and the project at Howard. I'm excited that John came on and spoke about that. I've been reading some great articles on it, and the focus that we're going to have in pushing people forward to franchising, to create and to learn generational wealth. Those people, you have that when you were younger, you sort of get your or when you're buying a house, you get your room in a basket. Well, here you get your business in a basket. You already have everything lined up for you. So I just wanted to, end on that note, and to make sure that we are taking that partnership challenge from Dr. Adams to all the other franchisors that are on the call. Please reach out and partner with these HBCUs. And it is the way that we can get the word out about franchising and what a great opportunity it is.
Thank you, John. Love it. Dr. Artis, do you want to have a few parting comments? I know you've been great. I can't wait to go back and read all of your comments in the chat, but it was hard for me to keep up with the chat and follow the discussion. But I'd love for you to have parting comments.
My parting comments are two. One, there was a little bit of chatter, and I think Amanda raised the question about discounted franchise access. That is tremendous. If we think about opportunity cost to engage, capital acquisition for minority businesses, we do some micro lending. We can offer some support through our Women's Business Center, through our Business Development Center. But if there were some discounted franchise fees, well, put the two of those things together, and I think some businesses can be born. So really want to amplify that point for those who did not see that in the chat, and thank her for raising such a critical opportunity. And then finally, just simply say thank you for giving voice to HBCUs and for caring enough to have this conversation and to partner in this important initiative. Thanks again to Congresswoman Alma Adams for her phenomenal leadership for HBCUs. We are ever grateful.
And thank you for your time today and the commitment. Thanks to all of our speakers. I have a few kind of summary remarks, but Ricky or Ashley, anything else that you guys want to add before we wrap up?
Thanks, Ursa. I'll add a couple of comments too. I love every single one of these calls that we have because I always get deeply inspired, and I love how much this community is coming together within IFA and franchising to talk about how we can lean in together to improve outcomes for franchising, for Black business owners, for a diversity of people who are interested in realizing their small business ownership dreams. So thank you all to our speakers for inspiring me, for giving us great ideas. And for those of you who can pick up the call to action and keep this conversation going. So I think a couple of things that I'll add from the IFA perspective as we wrap, and then Ursula, I'll turn it back over to you. You know, I always think about, well, what will I leave you with so we can turn our inspiration into action? And I wrote down 4 specific things. Usually I try to keep it an even shorter list, but we've got a lot of work that I think we can do together. First, you've heard us mention that the IFA is focused on a campaign that's called Open for Opportunity. We feel that one of the most important things we can do at the IFA Foundation and the IFA is to raise awareness of this model, share the good news story that it is a positive contributor to local communities, and it is an opportunity for people from all backgrounds to succeed in business. So the ways that we are doing that, and my call to action for all of you, is we are looking for your stories. Do you have franchisees? Do you have owners? You know, tell us more about your programs, and we're capturing that through video, through articles and writing, and we want to put that out. We want to share that with our stakeholders on Capitol Hill, with our local leaders as we go around our roadshows. So the more we know about you, to the point that that you all have shared, if you can see it, you can be it. And we want to be that megaphone to show others the work that is happening in this community. So please share us your stories. 2, I want to flag as well that we have our convention coming up. And what I hope is that this has whetted everybody's appetite to keep this conversation with us, keep going with us. Later on in February, we're going to be in San Diego, our return to an in-person convention. And I'm very excited that for the first time at convention, we're going to be devoting a significant amount of time for a DE&I summit, where we're going to be talking about the state of diversity and franchising. We're going to be looking at what the data is telling us. We're going to be sharing additional ideas with an even bigger audience about what are people doing and how can we follow those examples. We're going to be having receptions and meetups that are focused for the Black Franchise Leadership Council. I hope all of you come by that. Let's keep the conversation going and inspiring others to action. Third, we've mentioned the Black Franchise Leadership Council that's here. We'll make sure that Ashley includes a link so that you can sign up, you know, raise your hand to say that you want to keep up to date about what we're doing at the Black Franchise Leadership Council. These are the kinds of conversations we have routinely, and we want everybody here to stay with the next one and spread the word and bring more people with us, because together we're going to keep coming up with ideas to how to advance more solutions. And then 4th, of course, how can we not say, encourage you to take the pledge for the HBCU challenge. One of my favorite things about it is that it's deeply flexible. You know, it's not that you are having to partner with an HBCU in a certain way to do a certain type of project. It's meant to put people's strategic skills and needs together to figure out what could work for everyone. You know, I know some people will say, well, I'm not Yum, I'm not Choice, I'm not McDonald's and the Pepsis of the world. And those of you who are, you've got some great examples here who are setting a pretty impressive bar. But all of you, the emerging franchisors and the other groups, there is still meaningful work that can be done, because you can scale what your projects look like through this HBCU challenge. So take the pledge. So share us your stories for our Open for Opportunity. Come to convention, keep this conversation going with us. Join the Black Franchise Leadership Council so we can continue to advance our educational outreach and take the HBCU Partnership Challenge, and let Ben and I know about that. And we'll be happy to make sure that you get involved and connected. So that was a long list, Ursula. I'm sorry, I got inspired with my call to arms. So let me turn it back over to you. And thank you again to everybody for sharing your insights and ideas with us today.
Thank you, Ricky, and thanks for the shout out for the Black Franchise Leadership Council. We actually have Richard Snow on the phone. Richard, sorry, I intended to give you kind of 30 seconds to say hello, just so people know who Richard is. Richard, I'm putting you on the spot, sorry.
So my name is Richard Snow. I'm the Black Franchise Leadership Chair. I just want to say transformational leadership, emotional intelligence, and stretching your bandwidth and advocacy is key. Dr. Ortiz, you were immediately responsive. You answered the call. You truly answered the challenge. John, you're always transformational in answering a challenge. Tim, you're always available, even when you're in the airport, you're on the road, wherever you're at. And it takes that because we all have traditional careers that we focus on, but this is a labor of love. And I love when everybody come together for this community and all of the different activities that are taking place. And it can't happen without a team. So I want to give kudos to my team. Vice Chair Carolyn Thurston, who is also a franchisor of Wisdom Senior Care. She's the CEO and owner. So if you want to do any type of partnership with us and you cannot contact me, she's next in line. If you could put your information in the chat, that'll be great. Second, our committees. We have Dr. Cassandra Hill, Executive Director of Choice Owners. She's also our Education Committee Chair. So anything from an educational standpoint and how you want to partner with the Black Franchise Leadership Council, Dr. Cassandra Hill will be your primary point of contact. When we talk about access to capital, funding strategies, ways to provide that capital to start those franchising opportunities, we have Mr. Jack Wilson. He is our chair of our Access to Capital Committee. So please put your information in there. And he's also the Chief Development Officer of Family Financial Centers. And then we also have Nancy Williams. Nancy Williams is a franchisor broker, but also she is a contributor to Black Enterprise Magazine. She's the head of our Community Partnership Committee. So any way you want to partner from a community standpoint, that is Nancy. And then we have Charles Thurston, who is Carolyn Thurston's husband. They also this is a lovely and beautiful story of Black love, marriage opportunity, empire growing, pouring in. I love it. He's also head of our community marketing and our advocacy there. So this is the team of how we focus, and we want more people to come into that team, more people to be a part of the village. So feel free to reach out, because I will reach out to you to build a bridge. I believe we cannot hoard any of this information. The only way that it grows is that we push it out there and allow it to grow. And Dr. Ortiz, anything that you have that you need the Black Franchise Leadership Council to support you on, please do. And to all my Divine Nine family, the love was in here, and I know it's in here. So I appreciate that, and thank you for the opportunity. And this does my heart is solid. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I am just delighted. I want to just leave you with two thoughts that I open my remarks with, and that's the two missions that we are here today to build on, and that is to bridge, create a bridge between the franchising community and diverse communities, and to also shape the future of franchising. This HBCU partnership challenge will do just that. So thank you for your time. We will be reaching out, sending more information to the extent we can summarize any of the chat discussion. We'll be sure to do that. But in the meantime, you guys reach out to us. This has been a great dialogue, and we look forward to continuing it at convention. Ashley, anything else from a logistics standpoint?
Not anything from me, just to let everybody know that I will be sending out follow-up information. I will include all of these email addresses in case you aren't able to get them in the chat, as well as a link to the recording. Please feel free to share this with your friends and colleagues so that they can spread the word as well. Other than that, I think that's all that we have.
All right, thank you guys. And again, a big thank you to all of the contributors here today. Thank you.
Thanks, Ursa.